It's strange, isn't it? How people's respect for you seems to appear the second you stop giving it away too freely. For years, you might have believed that being kind, open, and available was the right way to live, to always answer the call, always show up, always say yes. But somewhere along the way, you noticed something unsettling. The more available you became, the less you were valued. It's one of life's cruelest paradoxes. The harder you try to please everyone, the faster they start taking you for granted. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And maybe that's why life seems to test us again and again, because it's only when you stop giving yourself away that you finally start finding yourself. Today, we're going to explore a truth that quietly changes everything: what really happens when you stop being available. Why people treat you differently when you withdraw. Why boundaries are not walls, but mirrors. And how scarcity, not generosity, creates value both in life and within your soul. This is the hidden psychology of availability and the invisible shift that begins the moment you decide to stop overextending yourself. At first, it doesn't make sense. You've been told your whole life that being generous, helpful, and reachable makes you a good person. And maybe it does, but it also makes you easy to forget. You reply instantly to every message. You rearrange your schedule for others. You say yes even when you're tired, even when your mind screams no. And you think that being available will make people appreciate you more. But over time, you start noticing a pattern. The more you give, the less people notice. The more you do, the less it seems to matter. Psychologists call this the availability paradox. When something or someone is constantly accessible, it starts losing its perceived value. It's the same principle that makes diamonds precious and sand meaningless. Scarcity creates worth. When you're always available, you teach people that your time isn't valuable, that your energy is infinite, that your presence is guaranteed. But deep down, you know it isn't, because each time you say yes to someone else, you're quietly saying no to yourself. You begin to feel stretched thin, emotionally drained, and quietly resentful, not because others are cruel, but because you never taught them how to treat you. The truth is, people don't respect what's always there. They respect what they have to earn. And until you understand that, you'll keep giving your time, your energy, your kindness to people who never truly deserved it. Carl Jung believed that human relationships mirror our inner world. When you allow others to constantly take from you, it's not because they're powerful, it's because you're disconnected from your own boundaries. You see, there's a difference between love and availability. Love is chosen. Availability is expected. When you're always available, you become predictable. And what's predictable, eventually, becomes invisible. Jung described this as the shadow dynamic. The parts of ourselves we repress or ignore eventually control us unconsciously. When you suppress your anger, your boundaries, your needs, they don't disappear. They move into your shadow, and from there, they control your behavior. You smile when you want to scream. You agree when you want to refuse. You stay silent, even when you know something isn't fair. And over time, that silence becomes your identity. You forget who you were before you started prioritizing everyone else's comfort over your own peace. That's what availability without boundaries does. It erases your individuality. You stop being seen as a person and start being treated as a resource. But here's the turning point: the day you stop being available. It doesn't happen with drama or anger. It begins quietly with a single decision. The decision to stop explaining yourself, to stop rushing to reply, to stop saying yes out of guilt. At first, people get confused. Some even get angry, because your availability wasn't just a habit, it was part of their comfort. Your boundaries disrupt that comfort, and in doing so, they reveal who truly values you and who only valued what you gave. It's a painful truth, but a liberating one, because when you stop being available to everyone, you finally become available to yourself. You start noticing what you want, what you feel, what you've ignored for years, and for the first time, You begin to live on your own terms, not someone else's schedule. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, begins when you withdraw from the roles society imposes on you. When you stop living to be liked and start living to be real. You see, most people confuse selflessness with virtue, but constantly being available isn't selflessness, it's self-abandonment. It's not generosity, it's fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of being replaced, fear that if you stop showing up, you'll stop mattering. But that's not how real connection works. The people who truly value you won't disappear when you stop being constantly available. They'll respect you more. Because absence creates awareness. When you step back, you allow others to step forward. When you stop chasing, you create space for people to meet you halfway. And that space, that quiet distance, becomes the test of who's meant to stay in your life. But something deeper happens too, something internal. When you stop being available to everyone, you start confronting the part of you that always needed to be. That need comes from what Jung called the inferior function, the neglected side of our personality that hides beneath the surface. For many, that's self-worth. You mistake being needed for being loved. You equate usefulness with importance. But love that depends on your usefulness isn't love, it's transaction. And when you stop participating in that transaction, it feels like withdrawal. It's uncomfortable, lonely even. But that loneliness is not emptiness, it's space being cleared for truth. In that space, something remarkable happens. You begin to see your own value, not the kind measured by attention, but by peace. You realize that stillness isn't isolation, it's alignment. Psychologically, when you stop being available, people recalibrate their perception of you. They start to understand that your time is finite, your energy sacred. They adjust how they approach you, and those who can't handle your boundaries reveal their dependence on your absence, not your presence. That's how you know who truly sees you. And here's the paradox. As your availability decreases, your influence increases. Because power doesn't come from being everywhere, it comes from being intentional. It's the same in every domain of life. The rarest things command the most respect. The sun sets only once a day, and yet the whole world pauses to watch. You don't have to shine all the time. You just have to shine with purpose. But this shift doesn't come without resistance. When you stop being available, guilt appears like a ghost. You start to second-guess yourself. Was that too cold, too distant, too harsh? That's your old conditioning fighting to survive. You've built your self-worth around being needed, and without that you feel lost. But that's how transformation works. Growth always feels like loss before it feels like freedom. You're not losing people, you're losing the illusion that you needed to be everything for them. And once that illusion fades, peace begins to take its place. Jung once wrote, "What you resist persists." And for many, that resistance is the inability to say no. We resist conflict, rejection, discomfort, and in doing so, we invite chaos. When you stop being available, you start confronting that resistance head-on. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop explaining your silence. You stop offering yourself as emotional currency for others to spend freely. And as you do, your relationships begin to evolve. Some people fade away. Others rise to meet you at your new level. And slowly, your life starts to fill with balance, not out of luck, but design. This shift doesn't make you selfish, it makes you sovereign. It's the reclamation of your time, your energy, your autonomy. Because the truth is, availability without boundaries is an invitation to be used. But availability with awareness, that's presence. It means showing up fully, when you choose to, not when you're obligated to. It's not about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself with clarity, not guilt. And that's the version of you the world truly respects. There's something profoundly magnetic about a person who knows when to disappear, who doesn't chase attention but commands it through silence, who doesn't explain their boundaries but embodies them through energy. That's the psychology of scarcity, the paradox of self-worth. The less you offer indiscriminately, the more your presence becomes powerful. When you stop being available, you stop being replaceable. Because people can only replace what's common, but authenticity, that's rare. And in a world obsessed with access, rarity is value. You might lose some people along the way. Those who depended on your endless yes will vanish when the no arrives. Let them. Their absence isn't a loss, it's alignment. Because the ones meant for you will respect your distance. They'll understand that your time isn't infinite, it's sacred. They'll adjust. They'll stay. They'll evolve with you. And those who don't were never really there for you to begin with. The truth is, availability is not kindness. It's communication. It tells people what you think you're worth. And when you finally stop overextending yourself, the world starts to listen. It's not your silence that changes things. It's your self-respect. Because when you value your own time, others learn to do the same. You stop attracting chaos. You stop enabling dependency. You stop being drained by people who mistake access for intimacy. And what replaces it is peace. So, when you stop being available, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly starts appreciating you, but because you do. Because you finally understand that saying no doesn't close doors, it opens better ones. Because you finally realize that your worth was never in your presence, it was in your discernment. And once you reclaim that, your life becomes quieter, lighter, and infinitely more meaningful. Carl Jung believed that true individuation, true self-realization begins not when you find yourself, but when you stop betraying yourself. When you stop giving yourself away to people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared. When you finally decide that your peace matters more than your popularity. So, stop apologizing for your boundaries. Stop explaining your silence. Stop justifying your distance. Because distance is clarity, and clarity is power. When you stop being available to everyone, you finally become available to your purpose, your healing, and your truth. And that's when everything changes. Text on screen. Respect isn't earned by being available. It's earned by being authentic.